Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So in today's video, you can see that I planted a number of things in the garden here. There's some stuff that I've had here for a little while that's just been sitting in its containers, a couple of things that I just got today. But let's take a look at each one of the things I put in. I'll tell you the sizing of everything, the sunlight zones, all that good stuff, and then kind of why I put it in each space. So we're gonna go in backwards order of the way that I planted them, starting with the Firefly Amethyst Yarrow. So what I ended up doing with these two plants is they were in 1-gallon size container, and I decided to split them into two. It's kind of an interesting experiment for me. I'm curious to see if splitting them like this, and then here's the other one here, if these are gonna survive. This one actually is a little bit larger, as you can see, so I didn't split it completely evenly, but I didn't want to damage it anymore, so I just left it the way that it is. You can see that there are some buds on here, but we will see what these do. Yarrow is a pretty foolproof plant that you don't really need to worry about too much. Basically just cut it back once a year. You don't even really need to fertilize it because it does pretty well on its own. This specific variety gets about 18 to 22 inches tall, and then you want to space it 32 to 36 inches, so it's definitely going to get on the wider side. So these plants should hopefully grow quite a bit next season. We'll see what they do. What I really like about them is that they start off like a nice deep pink and they fade quick. Seems like a lot of yarrow does that, where they do fade pretty quick in color, so it gives a nice two-toned look to it. These also are hardy in zones 3 through 8, and you want to give them as much sun as possible. These are not even really a part shade plant. These you want to just give full sun. And I would say this area does do pretty well. You can see behind me, we have like ornamental grasses, roses, I have a weeping spruce here, and everything does pretty well here. These are pretty much full sun plants, so I think that these are going to mix in pretty nicely. Also right here, and then on the other side, I'll walk over so you can see these tiny little plants. I just planted these yesterday. These are Cat's Pajamas Nepeta, or catmint. So these are gonna be a nice purpley color here. So we have purple, pink, another kind of pink, and then you'll see that nice variegated color, and then there's the limelight tree here. So it's kind of a warmer toned look here, and these perennials will fill in these front areas since we did extend the beds this year. Now these two plants right here, I just put in the ground as well. This one here is a My Monet Weigela. It has a beautiful color. I mean, you can see just how gorgeous the pink is with the white and green variegated color. What's very interesting about this plant is that it only grows about 12 to 18 inches tall and about 18 to 30 inches wide. So this is about the full size that it's gonna get. It'll fill out a little bit more. The one thing I will mention is when I did get this plant, this is kind of like the center of the plant right here. It grew out quite a bit on this side, so I think when it goes dormant for the winter, I may cut that side back a little bit just so it grows a little bit more evenly. I could shape it just a bit, but besides that, Weigela don't really want to be pruned. I wanted to plant this in the ground because it's so easy to care for, and you will get blooms in the springtime as well. However, because it is extremely variegated, it actually can be hurt a little bit by the sun. I do have it in a pretty much full sun location, so we will see how it does in this spot, but I only have it in full sun because the garden center that I got it at was in full sun, and we did just have temperatures in the mid to high 80s, maybe even 90 the last week, although I wasn't here last week. So I'm thinking that if it can survive that, I think it'll be okay here, but it may eventually get a little bit shaded out by this limelight hydrangea as well, so I think that will protect it in the future. Speaking of, this is a just traditional limelight hydrangea. This one is gonna get about 6 to 8 feet tall and wide, so this is about a 6-foot fence, so it'll get at least as tall as the fence, if not probably a little bit taller, give us a little bit of privacy from the neighbors. You can see it's just starting to bloom right now, and I would say if you're in like a zone 7-ish or lower, then you can put it in full sun. If you're in a zone 8 or 9, I would give it a little bit more part shade. I have it in full sun right now. I think it's gonna do well and bloom best in full sun. And one more thing I do wanna say about this plant is that it actually looks really good right now. This was actually a plant that I got from Eric and Christopher at Grow For Me 5B. I'll link them down below if you want to check out their channel, because they actually just started a new YouTube channel. But they gave me this hydrangea when I went to visit them, and it looks really great now, but I am going to give it a pretty hard prune back this year, so that way it can have a nice dense row of foliage for next season. Next up right here is this plant on the left, which is called a Whisper Pink Catmint. This one's from Monrovia, and what's really cool about this catmint is that it has pink flowers compared to most other catmint that has more of a purplish color, like that Cat's Pajamas that I just showed you earlier. So you can see the flowers here, nice and dainty looking. It's been blooming for a very long time, which is an awesome thing about catmint, and I have it right next to this Summer Crush hydrangea. I did transplant it this year, so it's finally just starting to bloom now. It's gonna have like a bright pink like almost hot pink color flower. So I think that these two things are going to contrast nicely to each other. But this plant is going to get about 22 to 24 inches tall, or actually 28 inches tall, and then it'll get about 22 inches wide. So this will have some height to it, but still be smaller than the hydrangea in the end. And this will provide some nice early to mid-season color. Other two things about this is that it's definitely going to want full sun, and it's hardy in zones 4 through 9. Now this next plant is a little bit difficult to see, but this is a lavender chiffon rose of Sharon. It's very small right now. This actually was another plant that I ended up getting from Eric and Christopher. This will end up getting about 8 to 12 feet tall and 4 to 6 feet wide. So I have it in the same bed that the Dragon's Eye Japanese red pine is in. So this will fill up this whole area here, be a nice beautiful evergreen, and then this is a deciduous shrub that will kind of mark the corner of this bed here. It'll grow up nice and tall. It'll be kind of like a pillar shape, and it'll have the beautiful lavender colored flowers that I think will contrast nicely with more of this yellow color, because I like the look of kind of yellow and purple together. And this would probably start to bloom right about now. It usually blooms kind of like midsummer into the fall. I have it in a pretty sunny spot. It does get a little bit shadier in this spot, but if anything, it's just like light shade more so than it being like a part shade situation. But this plant is definitely going to want full sun, as much sun as you can give it all day long, and then it's also hardy in zones 5 through 9. Now this plant right here is a little bit of a mystery to me. I have a pretty good idea of what it is, but I just don't know for sure. This is a plant I actually got from URI. We were transplanting some things in the spring semester, and I was welcome to take a cutting with me. So I did. It's grown up quite a bit. It did flower a little bit in the spring. This is definitely an Amsonia, and I think it's the variety Blue Star. The only reason I'm a little hesitant to say for sure that it is Blue Star is only because I think I looked online and it said that Blue Star is supposed to get about 2 to 3 feet tall, and this plant at URI was a good 4 feet. It was like almost up to my shoulders, how tall this plant was. It also was extremely difficult to get out of the ground. But I do think that it's just been there for a very long time, so it probably got bigger than what a tag would say anyways. But it has the beautiful blue flowers in the spring. I love the look of the foliage, and I think that it's going to stand out well against this arborvitae, which has a little bit more of that yellowy color. But again, I would say that this plant is generally going to be about 2 to 3 feet tall and then 2 to 3 feet wide. So it'll really fill out this one corner right here, as you can see. Now this last plant here is my absolute favorite. It is called a Gym-born Beauty Hinoki Cypress. Or at least I think it's Gym-born Beauty. It's spelled Gimborn, so Gimborn, something like that. But I saw this at the garden center today. I had never heard of it before. It's an Iseli plant. You can kind of tell by their triangular tags. Love Iseli, love their plants. This was really beautiful, and I didn't know for sure what I was going to be putting in this bed, but this plant ends up getting 15 feet tall by 12 feet wide, which thankfully I have the space for it to really fill out this spot over here. It's hardy to zone 5, and then it says sun to partial shade. I wanted to give it a little bit more sun though, so that way the real color can stand out with this. It has a beautiful glaucous color. There is flecks of blue in here that really stand out. And when there's a lot of other green happening in a space, this is a nice cooler color that's going to bring the tone down a little bit, and is a beautiful evergreen for sure. I love hinoki cypresses. I honestly want to add more of them to my space, so I'm hoping to do that soon. I just kind of forgot about them as a plant for a while, and this is definitely my favorite plant. I love the character that they have, and again, I love that blue. I can't stop looking at it now. In fact, I keep looking at it outside from the window, and I'm like, oh my god, it just looks so cool. So I have this here. I have the birch tree behind it right here, which is hopefully going to do well. And then where the veggies are here for this year, I think next year I want to put either a smoke bush or maybe a couple other things that have like a purple leaf to it, so that way there is nice contrast in this bed here. The last thing I just wanted to mention is that I did amend each hole with using compost as well as Biotone starter fertilizer. I'm starting to kind of like sway away from Biotone because I've just heard that it's not really necessary to add mycorrhizae if there already is some in the soil. But I have a bag left, so I'm just going to use it for now. The compost is the key thing, and I'm also making sure to dig the holes nice and wide around the plants, because that definitely has been an issue this year, where I've made the holes just as big as the plants, especially with sheet mulching, and it's caused them to really just kind of sit there and not grow all that well. So I'm really working hard to make sure that I give, there's a fly here, to make sure that I give an adequate living space for the plants, so that way they can really send out their roots for the season. And then also making sure to water them properly through the rest of the season. So with all that being said, I hope you guys like this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next one.